Hi everyone, we are back with Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Rodrick Rules. This is book 2 in the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series. So, the main theme about this book is Greg has a secret to keep and Rodrick knows it. So he's ready to put summer vacation behind him, but Rodrick won't allow it. Alright, so the very first page opens up with Rodrick on his drums. So, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Rodrick Rules. September. Monday. I guess Mom was pretty proud of herself for making me write in that journal last year because now she went and bought me another one. But remember how I said that if some jerk caught me carrying a book with diary on the cover, they were going to get the wrong idea? Well, that's exactly what happened today. Now that Rodrick knows I have another journal, I better remember to keep this one locked up. Rodrick actually got a hold of my last journal a few weeks back, and it was a disaster. But don't even get me started on that story. So, Rodrick called him a sissy and punched him. Sounds like a not very nice guy. Even without Rodrick problems, my summer was pretty lousy. Our family didn't go anywhere or do anything fun, and that's Dad's fault. Dad made me join the swim team again, and he wanted to make sure I didn't miss any meets this year. Stop shivering, Greg. No mercy, Todd. Kill him, Brandon. I don't think Greg's into it. Dad's got this idea that I'm destined to be a great swimmer or something, so that's why he makes me join the team every year. At my first swim meet a couple of years ago, Dad told me that when the umpire shot off the starter pistol, I was supposed to dive in and start swimming. But what he didn't tell me was that the starter gun only fired blanks. So I was a whole lot more worried about where the bullet was going to land when I was getting myself to the other end of the pool. So they're swimming away. He's just sinking to the bottom. Even after Dad explained the whole starter pistol concept to me, I was still the worst swimmer on the team. But I did end up winning Most Improved at the awards banquet at the end of the summer. That's only because there was a 10-minute difference between my first race and my last one. So I guess Dad's still waiting for me to live up to my potential. And in a lot of ways, being on the swim team was worse than being in middle school. First of all, we had to be in the pool by 7:30 every morning, and the water was always freezing cold. And second of all, we were all crammed into 2 lanes, so I always had somebody on my tail trying to get around me. The reason we had to use 2 lanes was because swim practice was at the same time as the water jazz class. I actually tried to convince Dad to let me do water jazz instead of the swim team, but he wouldn't go for it. Come on, ladies, get those arms up. So it looks like Greg is having a lot more fun. This was the first summer the coach let us boys wear swim trunks instead of those skimpy racing trunks. But Mom said Rodrick's hand-me-down bathing suit was perfectly fine. Your friends will be jealous because you'll be so fast. But instead, they're laughing at him. After swim practice, Rodrick would pick me up in his band's van. Mom had this crazy idea that if me and Rodrick spent quality time on the ride home every day, we wouldn't fight as much. But all it did was make things a lot worse. Rodrick was always a half hour late picking me up, and he wouldn't let me sit up front. He said the chlorine would ruin his seat, even though the van is something like 15 years old. Get in the back. Rodrick van doesn't actually have any seats in the back, so I had to squeeze in with all the band equipment. And every time the van came to a stop, I had to pray I didn't get my head taken off by one of Rodrick's drums. That's him falling around. I ended up walking home every day instead of getting a ride from Rodrick. I figured it was better to just walk home the 2 miles than to get brain damage riding in the back of the van. Halfway through the summer, I decided I was pretty much done with the swim team, so I came up with a trick to get out of practice. I'd swim a few laps and then I'd ask the coach if I could use the bathroom. Then I'd just hide out in the locker room until practice was over. The only problem with my plan was that it was something like 40 degrees in the boys' bathroom, so it was even colder in there than it was in the pool. I had to wrap myself up in toilet paper so I wouldn't get hypothermia. That's how I spent a pretty big chunk of my summer vacation. And that's why I'm actually looking forward to going back to school tomorrow, Tuesday. When I got to school today, everybody was acting all strange around me, and at first I didn't know what was up. Then I last remembered I still had the cheese touch from last year. I got the cheese touch in the last week of school, and over the summer I completely forgot about it. The problem with this cheese touch is that you've got it until you pass it on to someone else. But nobody would even get within 30 feet of me, so I knew I was going to be stuck with the cheese touch for the whole school year. Luckily, there was a new kid named Jeremy Pendle in homeroom, so that took care of that problem. Welcome to our school, Jeremy. He gave him the cheese touch. My first class was pre-algebra, and the teacher put me right next to Alex Aruda, the smartest kid of the whole class. Alex is super easy to copy off of because he always finishes his tests early and he puts his paper down on the floor next to him. So if I ever get in a pinch, it's nice to know I can count on Alex to bail me out. Kids whose last names start with the first few letters of the alphabet get called on the most by the teacher, and that's why they end up being the smartest. Some people think that's not true, but if you want to come down to my school, I can prove it. So that's Alex Aruga, Christopher Zygel. I can only think of one kid who broke the last name rule, and that's Peter Utager. Peter was the smartest kid in the class all the way up to the 5th grade. That's when a bunch of us started giving him a hard time about how his initials sounded when you said them out loud. Teacher, the answer to that question is P-U, P-U, yeah, P-U. Ah. These days, Peter doesn't raise his hand at all, and he's pretty much a C student. I guess I feel a little bad about the whole PU thing and what happened to Peter, but it's hard not to take credit whenever it comes up. Greg says, I started that. Anyway, today I got a pretty decent seat in my class except 7th period history. My teacher is Mr. Huff, and something tells me he has Rodrick as a student a few years back. Mr. Heffley, you'll be sitting in this chair next to my desk. Alright, well, we still don't know exactly what secret Rodrick knows, except that Greg has a diary. We're gonna have to keep reading to find out. See you guys then.